the Yards, a podcast show about sports and sports cards. Brought to you by The Adventure Begins Comics and Games, located on 1488 across from the Escape Theater. I'm Chaz, and here with me are my main hosts. Man, we got Preston and we got Mark. What up, Preston and Mark?
What's up, Chaz? How's it going?
It's going. I'm excited about sports.
Heck yeah. Let's do it.
Right on, man. So we got Preston Laird. He is the main dude as far as sports cards when it comes to The Adventure Begins, and I'm sure outside The Adventure Begins. So intro yourself, man. Like, how long you been doing the sports thing?
Well, I've been an active collector since the early 80s, and first got into the hobby with my love of Earl Campbell. Grew up an Oiler fan, and basically the first superstar I ever really had a man crush on was Earl Campbell, and all the kids in the neighborhood used to call me Earl. So I was hooked when I got my first Earl Campbell card. Everything else is history. So been around the hobby for a long time.
And driving through East Texas, going from East Texas to Houston, you're always I can't remember what the city is, but there's Earl Campbell Drive or
Tyler
Earl Campbell. What is that?
The Tyler Rose from Tyler, Texas.
So yeah, and I live in Tyler. That's so crazy because I should have known better than. What about you, Mark? And we all know you from Nerd News Now, the Kingdom of Geekdom. You know about toys and comic books and all that jazz, and you know about sports too.
Oh yeah, no, I know about sports. I think I also grew up in the Houston area, and what helped me get into sports and eventually sports cards was the best Rockets team that they've ever had, 93, 94, 94, 95. I don't tolerate anyone who talks about an asterisk because Michael Jordan wasn't there. He actually was there in 94, 95. He just wasn't up to snuff, and they got ousted in the playoffs. I fully believe Vernon Maxwell would have locked down Jordan, and the Rockets still would have won. Regardless of who was on the other side. That team was incredible. Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, one of the greatest NBA players of all time. Very humble man, like left it all on the court, and just incredible center that will never be replicated. The Dream Shake, obviously one of the most iconic moves in the game that there ever will be. And they don't really have any cool nicknames anymore, do they? But I think having a player named Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon, that's like an easy sell to a kid, right? I mean, just like the stuff of legend. And so for me, the Rockets were really good, and I collected their cards. And then in the later that decade, in the late 90s, you had Biggio and Bagwell bringing the Astros into baseball prominence. And unfortunately, one of the bad things that happened was the Oilers moving to Tennessee. So I had to adopt the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and collected Mike Allstott and Eric Rhett rookie cards, and got into football sort of that way. So, but that's kind of how it all started. My sports teams were good, and I lucked out. You see a lot of people from this area. If they were born before or after me, they might have adopted like the Cowboys or the Mavericks or the New England Patriots because they have some guy that threw a ball and won 80 million trophies, whatever. I'm more of a homer, so that's kind of where it all started for me. And then, like you said, I collect. So I think if you collect one thing, you can understand someone who collects something else, even though you don't understand that thing. Maybe Chaz with you, like, comics versus sports. You're into comics and you collect comics, so you can probably see why we collect sports cards, even though you may not be into sports.
Well, I'm just saying, when I was a kid, I collected sports cards. Me and my little brother, my pop got us into it, and I was I've always been an Astros fan, so anything Houston. But my main dude was Bo Jackson. Anything with Bo Jackson on it, I was collecting because my dad, his nickname for me was Bo. So I had to have everything. So I'm not. I haven't really collected lately, but I have been doing breaks here with Preston as well. And with bringing the sports cards into The Adventure Begins, I'm learning a lot more. And this podcast will help as well, and all that jazz. So speaking of, man, you hit on something real quick. quick question, and this is going to go out online, so maybe they can, the listeners can type in their answers as well. Coolest sports nickname out there. What do you think the coolest one? You said Akeem the Dream, Mark. What about you, Preston? Who was the coolest nickname?
Oh man, jeez. Like he was saying earlier, there's not a whole lot of guys that have nicknames these days.
Well, no, just all time. So I would just go because it's the intimidating factor, the fridge. I mean, like if you never went up against this guy and you're like, hey man, the fridge is out there. You're like, what?
Okay, along the same lines as the Rockets, I got to go with Clyde the Glide Drexler. I mean, that just rolls off your tongue like some good hot sauce. I mean, it really, Clyde the Glide Drexler has to be up, close to the top of the list. And, Mark, I was fortunate enough to actually be at that game in 94 and 95 season in 95 when they swept the Magic. And I've always been a huge Rockets fan myself since the early mid 80s when Moses Malone was playing, and I used to try to replicate the Dream Shake on the playground basketball court because I was quite the basketball player when I was younger, and working on the Dream Shake was part of my daily routine. So I can definitely relate to you when it comes to the Rockets, man.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So hopefully, when this goes online, just anybody just put your favorite nickname in the bottom.
Hey, and the Killer Bees. We can't forget the Killer Bees. Come on, the Killer Bees was really, really one of the best nicknames ever for Houston franchise.
A good group nickname. See that could be next week. We do a good group nickname next week.
All right.
I'm sure there's some out there.
The Steel Curtain. The Steel Curtain's about
Steel
the best
Curtain, awesome
group nickname. Yeah.
Heck yeah, man. Mean Joe Green. Come on, Mean Joe Green. Heck yeah.
So getting to know the hosts and whatnot. We all don't just collect sports cards. Sports cards, not for myself. So, Mark, what are some of the things that you're collecting other than sports cards? I mean, obviously.
Well, you mentioned Refrigerator Perry, so of course I'm going to take that into the direction of G.I. Joe, right? There was, what was crazy about G.I. Joe, obviously, is one of these cartoons that was made just to sell toys, but they were very smart of how they did it. I mean, they got into the wrestling market by having, Sergeant Slaughter introduced in the film and Slaughter's Marauders. I mean, they made a whole team for the guy. But then they had a mail-in figure of Refrigerator Perry. And that is wild that they took like a real life football player who was larger than life. Obviously the 85 Bears, Mike Ditka, Refrigerator Perry, Walter Payton, Sweetness, and just complete icons. They did that crazy rap video. If you've never seen that, YouTube that immediately. So action figures, comics, I mean, pretty much the main staples of geekdom and nerddom, right? I mean, never really got into coins, surprisingly, or stamps, but comics, action figures, cards, and as far as cards,
surprisingly,
what now?
Why is that surprisingly?
I mean, because I just feel like
hey,
I just feel like with coins and with stamps, there was always a gateway there. I remember in Conroe, Texas, there was a coin shop that like doubled as a card shop, but they cared more about coins. So, I just it's just one of those things. Like coin grading was a thing well before I remember comic book and card grading.
Yeah,
that's one of the first things I remember being graded. So.
Yeah.
I collect all the things, Chaz, everything.
This is true. What about you, Preston?
Well, I also collect comics, a few action figures here and there, and I like to collect rock and roll memorabilia. Also, I've got some signed drum heads, drumsticks, photographs, things of that nature. Ticket stubs. I love to collect those as well to big events in the rock and roll history. And I've also got a handful of autographed rare books as well.
Oh, nice. Very cool. That's awesome. Well, I collect comics and toys mainly, and I have a huge Kiss collection. So in high school, a lot of my friends, when they were going out doing extracurricular activities, I was saving my money to buy whatever had the Kiss logo on it. And I've got no joke, probably everything except for the pinball machine, only because I didn't have anywhere to put it. But one day, maybe.
Phantom of the amusement park.
What's that?
The Phantom of the amusement park.
Oh, the Phantom of the Park. That's a great. It's a great cheesy movie, but if you watch the UK version, they cut it, and it's actually not a bad movie. The US version is horrible. Um, so let's move on to the state of the hobby itself. We got some record card sales in the national spotlight here recently. The legendary 1952 Topps Mickey Mantle sold for a whopping $5.2 million in January. And this one was it's only 6 PSA 9s in existence. Is that true?
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, it's a PSA 9, which if you don't know, PSA is one of the prominent card graders. So if you're familiar with comics, so that would be like a CGC 9.0. So 10's the highest you can get. So if you think about the way time ages us all, and especially what it does to cardboard, it's pretty incredible to have a 9 from 1952. Borderline ridiculous, really. Like I just can't even fathom. You think about how people used to put them in their bike spokes, and how there's no top loaders in 2021 because of demand, but there was no top loaders at all back then. No way to protect your cards. I'm sure they had binders of some sort, but they definitely didn't have like Ultra Pro Silver Edition packs for you to buy to to protect your cards in. No penny sleeves or top loaders back then. So incredible. It's just absolutely mind blowing that a card could be in that good a condition, being that old.
Saying that there's only 6 doesn't mean that there's only 6 in the world. There's only 6 that's been graded. Now, Preston,
Correct.
you're doing gradings at the store.
Yeah,
Right on.
we just started to use HGA hybrid grading authority to submit your cards, and absolutely incredible company, gorgeous slabs. They deliver what they say they're going to deliver as far as the time frames that they promise whenever you're purchasing your card at whatever return level, anywhere from 5 days to 60 days, for as little as $20 a card, plus a little bit of shipping and a $5 fee for me to go over the cards and inspect them thoroughly, make sure that they are going to meet up to at least a 9 min or better. If not, then I'll recommend that they don't grade the specific cards. But yeah, it's a very exciting time. I think HGA is here to stay. They're growing exponentially. They're starting to accept a lot more cards as we speak. So it's an exciting time to get in with them. They've been in business since January, and currently one of only 3 companies that are accepting the lower end submissions as far as card grading goes. Whereas PSA and Beckett, they're kind of hanging in the wind right now. We're not exactly sure where they're going with their regular card grading services, but it's a refreshing new company. I think if people give them a shot, they'll be very pleased with the quality of the product and certainly with the service that they're providing.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Speaking of graded cards, there's a rookie card. Anybody want to bring up that sold here recently? A record $4.3 million, I think.
Well, that would be Mr. Patrick Holmes, the highest selling football card in history. Was the 101 National Treasures NFL logo card, and it's a BGS 8.5, so near mint, not quite mint. I can only imagine what it would have gone for if it were mint or better. But yeah, exciting times, man. When you see a football card that's going for over $4 million. Football's kind of lagged a little bit, I think, as far as overall value in the collector market, and they've been closing the gap recently. I think people have realized that football cards are a really good value in certain spectrums of the hobby, and I think a lot more people are steering towards football for personal collections and for investment purposes.
That blows my mind, man. 4.3 million. That is crazy. Now
Yeah.
I have a one of one Patrick Mahomes. It's not a football card. So they're from Tyler, Texas, and I was managing a bar called the Rose City Draft House. and his parents, his dad and his now stepmom, which I happen to know, come in there all the time. And it was a Friday night. We had somebody at the door usually, but that person called in sick. So anyway, after my day shift, I was asked to check IDs at the door because in Tyler, Texas, it's dry. You have to sign a it's a card pretty much saying that you're old enough to drink and all that jazz. And it slips on my mind what it's actually called. Anyway, so this group of guys come in and they walk away. The owner comes up and he was like, "Do you know who that is?" I'm like, "No, I have no idea who that is." They're like, "That's Patrick Mahomes. He just got signed to the NFL. He's supposed to be one of the greatest players, blah, 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 and all this jazz and whatever, you know." So what I did is I took his signature from his it's TABC too. This is probably super illegal, but I took so it's got his name, his address, all of his jazz on it, but it's probably one of the very first signatures he's ever signed after he was inducted to the NFL. But that's my one of one. I'll never sell it because again, I think I just incriminated myself and I can go to jail. But yeah, and it's totally cool. But it's not a football card.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a membership. It's a drinking membership. You have to have a membership. Anyway, earlier this month, the iconic 1980-81 Topps rookie card of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird sold for around $860,000. So that's
Yes.
yeah,
that is the 80 Tops, and it's the one that's sort of like perforated into three different players, and of course Dr. J's in the middle of that card. That one blows my mind mostly because maybe 10 years ago or so you probably could have got it for a couple $100. Now maybe not in that grade, and obviously grading, like I said, is a newer thing. But we're talking about like these one of one cut signatures from Mahomes, where there's only one in the world, and that sells for 4.3 million. Okay, that's cool, but like it just blows my mind that a card as populous as the Magic Johnson Larry Bird Topps is selling for almost $1 million. Like that's more indicative of the kind of cards that were attainable 10 years ago. Like, and Chaz, as we go along in this, we can stop and do sort of like a running glossary of terms, because we're throwing out terms like slabs and one of ones, and people may not be familiar with those. So slabs are anytime you get a card graded, and again, it would be equivalent to getting a comic slabbed at CGC. They encase it in a plastic hard enough that I would never even try to open it. I've seen people like crack them open in convention lines to try to get higher grades or whatever, but pretty indestructible plastic around these slabs. So you basically preserve the card forever in a airtight seal. And then one of one just means, hey, that's it. This isn't an eBay one of one where like you can draw a smiley face on and go, oh, this is a one of a kind Michael Jordan card now. No, this is like a one, like Panini made this. There's one of these cards in existence. This is a one of one, because as we get into this, there's a lot of terms that can confuse people, and there's unfortunately people that take advantage of that. Like there might be a 50 card set, and the person's going to say this is card 8 of 50, and try to make it seem like there's only 50 of those cards in existence when there's really thousands of cards in existence, but it's just number 8 in a set of 50 cards. So when one thing I would advise people, just be cautious. If you want to get into the game, awesome, but be very cautious when making purchases online, because the wording can be tricky. So if any terms come up, throw them down in the comments below. Hit up Adventure Begins through email or Twitter. We'll get to that later, how you can contact us, and just let us know what you want to know about sports cards and anything we can do to make it easier to get into the hobby. Because I think there's a lot of terms can be daunting, or there could be a lot of terms that are very important and they just sort of fly by because we're just saying words, right? And Chaz, actually, as of yesterday, Sunday, August 15th, there's a brand new record holder for baseball graded cards. Preston, do you want to tell everyone which card that used to be called the most expensive ever is now again the most expensive ever. The record sale from yesterday.
Yep, that would be the Honus Wagner T206 card. It is considered the holy grail of sports cards, and it has been on the throne of most expensive sports cards several times and knocked off of it several times, and it just retook the throne with a whopping $6.6 million, including a 20% bidders premium. So just absolutely mind-boggling. This particular card was graded by SGC, and it was an SGC 3. So just absolutely stunning amount of money for a card. The condition's not fantastic, but there's only 4 cards with a higher grade than that particular card. So the other cards are in private collections. So it's probably only a matter of time before someone gets one of those out of their private collections and sells it for even more. But this particular Honus Wagner has quite the story. It's been bought and sold many times since the early 70s when it was originally bought for $1,100 and then wound up at this auction several years later, transferring, I think, at least 6 or 7 different collectors during the process.
Wow. Dude, that's insane. Insane. So speaking of Grail cards, is that your Grail card, Preston? Was that the Grail card for you?
Well, as far as my personal likes go, I'm a huge Houston Astro fan, Rockets, anything Houston really. And Kyle Tucker's probably at the top of my list for collecting right now. I think he's got a tremendous future ahead of him. I just love his game, and I've got a PSA 10 red numbered out of 5 2019 silver pack promo card of his. That's probably my most prized card right now. That's my favorite.
Oh wow! Right on. Very cool.
And it
Mark?
is the only one in existence with that high of a grade as well. So
Nice. Look at you. You're already sitting pretty.
yeah.
Mark, what's your Grail card, man? The one.
I'm gonna do Chaz. I'm gonna do an easy layup here, and I'm just gonna say the '86 Fleer Jordan.
Okay, right on. Very cool.
I think that's just such an iconic card. It hasn't yet hit a million on the market, so maybe there's time.
Before you buy it.
I can remember when those were $50 at some of the sports cards I used to visit in the mid-late 80s. $50.
Wow.
You could get the sticker rookies for $5 and $10 all day long, and now the sticker rookies are in the thousands. So
wow.
It's amazing.
Grail card for me, 1953 Topps Mickey Medal card, number 82, because my dad had that card, and he was a big Mickey Mantle fan. We don't know where the hell that card went, but somebody's got it. But it'd just be cool. I just saw it all the time, so that would be my Grail card if I were to pick one. Keep your $1 million cards. Give me the $3,000 one. All right, so being we work at the shop, and we know that there's a big problem as far as our shelves laying barren with nothing sometimes. Actually, we've been pretty lucky, but a lot of shops and stores haven't been lucky when it comes to like top loaders and things like that. You want to touch on that as to what do you think? Why the fever's happening? What's going on?
Well,
Can we get our stuff?
I think as a result of the pandemic and such, I think it just woke up a whole lot of people's inner child adventure. They're looking for an outlet, and I believe that just reawakened it in so many different people across the slate in so many different ways, not just for sports cards, but anything that you have collected over the years. You wanted to go back to those times, and you wanted to feel that feeling again of what it was like, because you needed something to fill that void. And I think it's stuck with the majority of the people out there. A lot of people have got into it, for an investment purpose. A lot of people got back into it, as I said, because it's a nostalgia type of reason. And then you've got your pure collectors as well. And it's kind of a eclectic mix, because you've got all of these people that are intermingling, and they're meeting each other, and they're networking, and you've got basically the geeks and the nerds mixing with the hard rock guys, and it's kind of bringing different types of people together that otherwise you never would have seen come together because of the hobby. It's super exciting. It has caused, some turmoil as well in the retail market side of things when it comes to availability and getting product at your Targets and your Walmarts and such. It's caused some unrest civilly, and they've had to take actions, as a result. Target's only selling online now. Walmart's still selling product in person, but they've gotten a little stricter with limits and things of that nature. It brings out a lot of bad in people, but it also brings a lot of good out in people, I believe. It's a tremendous hobby, and it's going as strong as it's ever gone. It's always going to fluctuate and such, but yeah, the state of the hobby is really, really strong right now.
Yeah, one thing, working at the Adventure Begins and hearing the people who work at Target come in and hearing the stories about how angry people were, like the Target right down the street, somebody pulled a gun on somebody. They also followed the delivery driver home, and that delivery or that distributor had to get a restraining order against some people or this person. So this whole time this is happening, and people are, as soon as stuff is dropped off, people are buying all of it. I've always thought to myself, why haven't we had people come in so angry? As far as we've limited stuff as far as Pokemon goes, for sure.
Yeah.
And you'll get a little bit of pouting every once in a while, but for the most part, people are like, oh man, we're cool.
Yeah.
But never has anybody been super angry at the fact that we couldn't sell anything. I think I don't know why that is. And I think maybe it's because the people I deal with, I will punch you in the throat if you got an attitude with me.
Well,
seriously.
Chaz, the main reason why I think that we haven't witnessed a whole lot of that at the shop is because Bill has built an environment that's focused on family, on community, on fairness, on not gouging people. And once someone comes in the store and they realize that we're doing this for our customers, for our loyal people that come in and support our business, and they realize that that's the main purpose behind this. There is no other motive behind it other than making sure that our regulars, our lifeblood, are allowed to purchase these things without having to jump over people and fight about it and this and that. So we try to be as fair as possible. We want everyone to have a little piece of the pie and enjoy collecting.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've just always I wanted at least one person to come in and be like, hey man, I want to buy all of this. I mean, like, man, I can't let you do that because there's a policy, and then just get irate just so I can just I don't know, let out some.
You're always going to have that guy. That guy exists, but we don't need to see that guy.
We don't need to see him, and I'm not.
We will put him in his place if he shows up.
I'm not encouraging anybody to do that, but I'm just saying, I ain't got time to play your games. But Mark, do you have any thoughts about all the scarceness of all these products?
Yeah, I think back in 2020, sort of like this, the fear with the pandemic set in, and fear of COVID, and people were huddled up with their loved ones, and it just sort of set off like this nostalgia. I believe like jigsaw puzzles rose like by 465% in sales in 2020. And
so much so that we're actually going to put in a section for puzzles.
Really,
we are.
that is awesome. So I think not to compare puzzles to baseball cards by any means, but I think people got back into hobbies and collecting, and then what really happened is they started paying attention to how much the secondary market value was, unfortunately, because hobbies should, to me, be something pure and fun and that you can do with your family. And sorting baseball cards is really relaxing, I guess, for some people. For me, anyway. So I'm more of a set maker, a box breaker. Like I prefer like quantity over something that's like $450 for 5 cards or whatever. I prefer a more traditional 24 packs a box, 8 cards per pack, or and it used to be 36 packs and 15 cards, ton of cards to go through. So I think that happened. It's a crazy time in 2021. We're in August and we've already hit $2 billion worth of sales for trading cards. which is more than all of 2020 combined. And as to why is it not happening in your store, I think one, Adventure Begins has built a solid community. They're not going to do that. I would be curious, Chaz, though, has anyone ever been in a huff over a comic that they couldn't buy? Has it
Yes.
ever happened? Okay, so
But
because
that's their own fault. Number one, that's their own fault. Now,
Yes.
if it's a brand new person, I got you, and I can feel you. But nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, it's a loyalty. It's somebody who comes in. They get their books every Wednesday, and we have managed comics where you can set up your own pull box, and we set up OC lists. And I tell you, you should know these things. And if you're like, oh, I can't get my book, well, that's your fault. And I love you. Don't get me wrong. We appreciate you shopping there, but that's on you. But I'll do anything that I can to help you get that book. But if you didn't put it on your list,
Why won't it subscribe? Why won't it subscribe?
Oh, we get that all the time. I'm like, dude, because you're not doing it right. Don't let the internet beat you. But yeah, it does happen, Mark.
I tell everyone, if I can do it, you can do it. So I've said it a million times. Sign up online. You'll never miss out on a book.
Yep.
And I think from an economical standpoint, I think one reason you guys probably haven't had to deal with that is that you go into Target, and this is back in 2020. Okay, you go into Target, you buy a $20 blaster, you put it on eBay and sell it for 100 right there, boom. Like, I'm not dealing with anyone, anything like that. If you go into a hobby shop, it's usually like a regulated market price. Like, I've noticed a lot of hobby stores, they have the ability now to like sell cards based on what they're going for. I mean, like most hobby shops are within like $5 or $10 of a sealed hobby box. I've never seen anything like that in my life. I guess that's to do with technology and computers. But so the value you're going to get from selling a $20 blaster for 100 or a $1,400 hobby box for 1,420, it's probably just the supply and demand of the market versus people trying to make a quick score. And to your point about Target, I didn't know that about the local Target here. I know that like the final straw was at a Target like up in Wisconsin. There was like a skirmish between 5 grown men in a parking lot, and they're like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. So even if you go to a Target now in August 2021, there's still a note up that says Target will no longer be carrying MLB, NBA, and NFL in store. They've started to
And
ease
Pokemon.
back into and what?
And Pokemon.
Now, I have seen some stores start to ease back into Pokemon,
Yeah.
but it just depends. And you can actually go on Target.com and find some of that stuff. But they have still been putting hockey and soccer, which makes no sense because soccer, and on a future show we'll have to dedicate time to soccer because it's insane. The soccer trading card market is nuts.
Soccer is only going to grow.
Yes.
Soccer is the future. I assure you of that.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to see it happen. What we need to happen here at The Adventure Begins is for all you hockey fans, get your buns all over to The Adventure Begins because we have like 8 cases of hockey cards. And I even brought this up. If we were to do an event and just flood the northern market and all of the Facebook groups as far as hockey goes, we can finally do our first case break, Preston.
But Chaz, we've only got 800 fat packs.
No, I'm just saying. Well, I know, but still, I mean, we should show them off.
Anyone that wants NHL Update Series fat packs, you get $1 off of the suggested retail price. Come in the shop and say, "Give me my fat pack," and you'll get your $1 off.
Should be like a buy one get one free as much
I
as
I might be taking y'all up on that.
Dude,
are you talking about this the 2020-2021 extended series?
Brand new extended series fat packs. Bill thought he was ordering 18 packs and he ordered 18 cases or boxes.
Hey, I might have to take you up on that because look, that set is like pure nostalgia.
Yeah.
You talk about nostalgia. They got all these inserts from the late 90s, and that's when I was ripping through hockey cards, man. I'll go ahead and throw this out there. My biggest regret in collecting is that I got an Ovechkin Young Gun back in the day.
That's a
Yeah,
few
and
hundred
I
bucks.
I sold it for $100,
Oh,
which at the time that was the value, but now
that
it's
was
like
good. Yeah.
yikes,
Yeah,
yikes.
Well, I
you
sold it.
can't think about stuff like that,
I
unfortunately.
sold a mint Montana rookie for 150, so don't feel bad.
Okay.
Right on. So I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna try to make it happen. I'm gonna try to put together a hockey sports break. We're just gonna do a case. We'll see what's that. I mean, it's on my list of things to do. I want to.
We'll do hockey eventually. I mean, that's just. I mean, there's no way around it. We're going to do hockey, and we'll be doing some soccer breaks in the future too.
Well, true, but I'm just saying I have a mission to put
Okay.
together a case break. That's
Right
my
on.
mission. We got 18. I think we can do one. Okay. So with the sales of cards so high, so we got nostalgia and all that jazz, right? So you're at home and COVID's happening and it's not happening and you're getting into it, you're loving it, you're loving open the packs and all that jazz. Back in the day, I remember collecting the entire series. Like I need 0 all the way to like 199 in Upper Deck or whatever. Like to get the entire series, that was like the end all be all. I've got them all. Now it's not like that. It's individual players. So I guess in the sports stock markets, we'll call it, the factors for influence. What are the factors influencing the sports card? So, like, what's making that card jump up in value and all that jazz?
Well, Chaz, there's a lot of things that can affect the prices of a player when it comes to the fluctuations and such. I mean, the player could just be super hyped. There'd be so much hype going around this player. He's done this in college and high school, and he's undefeated, and blah blah blah. He's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Like a jaw here recently.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that hype machine gets going. Everybody jumps aboard, and so prices are going to explode. And then you got your performance based hype. Nowadays, because we live in this instant world where we know what's going on at 24/7 anywhere across the globe. If a player has a fantastic game, sometimes all it takes is one game, and their stuff can shoot up 300% in one night. And it's a very reactionary market when it comes to prices and fluctuations. It can drop at the dime of a hat, and sometimes an injury could absolutely destroy value overnight as well. So I mean, it just depends, and also it depends on the team. If you're playing for the Yankees, or if you're playing for the Diamondbacks, which players are going to be more desirable. In most cases, it's going to be a Yankees player. So a lot of variables go into the reason why card prices go up and down and waver and are what they are, but usually it's going to be based around performance and hype.
So nobody's doing like an entire set now, right? Nobody's looking for the entire set. I mean, you probably will have those collectors, but there's not going to be an entire set thing,
I mean, it's just not quite as common these days. I do still run across collectors that are interested in sets. I mean, Mark, I think, is one of them actually, because he mentioned earlier that he likes to put together larger sets of cards, which is still alive and well. It's just you don't hear about it a lot because it's not sexy and glossy and and beautiful to look at. It's a set. It is what it is. Whereas when you go in with the singles, there's so many variants of this and that and parallels of this and shiny and sparkly, and there's we're a sparkly kind of society. We love shiny, sparkly things. So if you show us something real shiny and sparkly and rare, then we're gonna eat it up.
Well, that's one of the things I was going to mention too, especially doing the breaks and whatnot, whether it's sports or Pokemon or up soon hockey. Cards scarcity, right, Mark? We got some. Those are going to bring up the value as well.
Yes, and what you mentioned as far as like someone who might be a completionist, it's impossible now. You can't do it. Like even if you had maybe if you had $10 million, there might be a set out there now that you could complete. And what I mean is like tops total. That was like a fairly cheap set, and it's like 600 cards. You could put that together, but then you got to go chase all the 10 of 10s, the 5 of 5s, the 1 of 1s, and like a Mike Trout 1 of 1 right now. I don't even know what that would be worth. Like, I mean, I know there's a difference.
$4.3 million. I can tell you that.
No, if it was his rookie year, yes, because there was actually a Mike Trout sell of, I believe, of a super fractor in the millions, but But it's like you just can't be a completionist now because you have. So one of the most recent sets that came out is Topps Gypsy Queen, and I think what are their Preston like 8 or 9 different colors now, and they add
There's
like a color each year.
they've
And
got
so,
so many variants. They've got this on the back. That's not on the back. There's a name on it. There's a name that's written in cursive. There's no name. There's
yeah,
a bazooka sign on the back. There's a label on his. There's a lapel on his shoulder on his jersey. If you get that card, that one's really rare. Yeah, I mean, Gypsy Queen's really sneaky and it's kind of fun. It's almost like a treasure hunt with their product when you go looking through it, because you may open a box and you might have a hidden gem in there that could be super rare, but because the variant's so minute and doesn't really stick out, you don't even know that it's there unless you're looking for it and you're educated on the product.
Yeah, that's
and
pretty
chat
fun.
Chaz, it got so ridiculous that they had a pink parallel last year, but this year they added mauve and purple, and it's like like you're looking at like blue and seafoam blue and royal blue, and you're like you have to like turn it over to see what it was numbered out of, and then refer to the checklist to see what color that actually was. It's like a box of. It's like someone at Topps got a hold of like a 48 pack of Crayola crayons and just started naming out colors that they haven't had yet. So no,
Yeah.
it would be insane. Like if you got every Mike Trout card out of Gypsy Queen, it costs millions. Because
Yeah.
one other thing that they're doing for they try to find a mix between a set collector and a high end collector, right? So they
Yeah.
put like this thrill of a chase in there. One very cool type of card they have is like they'll take the lineup, like the coach wrote in their name and then signed a lineup card, and then they'll embed that into a card and have the player autograph that, and that's a one of one, the only card in existence. So
That's
if
insane.
it's someone that keeps going up and down from the minors, maybe you could get that card for like $300. But if
And
it's like but if it's Otani, forget it. You're never getting that card. So
yeah, well, just this past week, someone pulled a one-on-one Mike Trout artist card out of Gypsy Queen, and it was a tarot card from the Pentacle subset with black pentagrams painted on the front and then autographed on the back by the artist. Absolute stunning card, worth several $1,000s.
easily.
Yeah,
Crazy. Now, if this was a Family Guy episode when we mentioned Mauve, I would like the and now there's Mauve. The old now there's here comes the Mod TV show.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Crayon and whatnot. But obviously, we don't have the budget for that. But something else that's going to skyrocket those prices, or perhaps those prices come tumbling down, is going to be sports news, right? So
Oh yeah,
if somebody's acting like a fool, well,
on
actually, the
Twitter.
bad usually go up. But if somebody
Yeah.
does something really stupid, that can come down. Like speaking of like the NBA Summer League, Jalen Green off to an explosive start. And Will Cade Cunningham. I mean, there's several, right?
Yeah, one thing that happens, Chaz, is like, especially, I mean, I know it happens in other sports, but especially in the NBA, people always want to say he's a once in a generational player. But the thing is, you can't have one of those every year. That's not what a generation is. Not 365 days. So to me, in sports card collecting, and Preston, please throw out anyone else in there if I miss someone. But since I've been doing this, there have been 3 generational players where it's like, they're gonna be number one pick, and like that what the hype is gonna be behind their cards, and that was starting off in the early '90s with Shaquille O'Neal.
Yep.
You had sets built around them, the whole deal. Then you have then you had LeBron, and now you have Zion, and it's already with Zion. I would place money 10 years from now on John Morant pulling ahead of Zion, just in the same way that Kevin Durant pulled ahead. And by the way, can anyone even name who is the number one pick over Kevin Durant now? Because it's slipping my mind even.
I think it was Odom, was it not?
Oh yeah, it was the guy who looked like he was 50 years old when he was
Yeah,
19.
who couldn't stay healthy for
Greg
more than six
Oden. Yep.
hours. He
Greg
drank
Oden from Ohio State. That's right.
He drank a cup of coffee and sprained his ankle.
Yep, that's pretty much. But also, we do have there, Chaz. There are crazy injuries in sports now too. Like a couple of baseball players recently have played Guitar Hero too much or Fortnite too much and developed tendonitis. I remember there was a Kerry Wood. He came off a 20 strikeout game and then he opened a can of Pepsi wrong and cut his finger. Sammy Sosa sneezed and blew his back out. So there was
Carlos
another play.
Correa was getting a massage and had a rib broken.
Sure, yeah, and Jeff Kent was washing his truck and broke his arm. So there's all kinds of, especially with the 24-hour news cycle, and we follow these guys on Twitter, and you got TMZ Sports now. TMZ Sports is also contributing to this because who would have thought when TMZ came out that there would eventually be a TMZ Sports? But that's the level at which all these athletes are at now. They're not just athletes now, and yes, they've been pop culture icons ever since Joe Namath, wore a fur coat, right? But like now it's just another level of crazy. So now we're just at a point where it's like almost anything anyone does can affect the price of their cards. But mostly I think it's still on the field. If you have a no-name pitcher and they pitch a no-hitter, I kid you not, their cards will jump up 1,000% that night on eBay.
Absolutely. Yep, no doubt. Overnight. And usually they'll go right back down in
And
about
they'll go right back. Now, look, jumping 1,000% isn't that big a deal when your rookie card's $1. But
yeah.
I mean, but hey, if someone has a 1 of 1 out there or a serial number card, they can make some cash off that.
Yep, they can hit the no-hitter lottery every now and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Cool. As
go
far as
ahead.
NBA, anything else to watch out for NBA wise?
Well, so I went off on a tangent there, but what I was trying to say is I'm not sure if either one of these two guys is a generational talent, but oh my gosh, I'm a Rockets fan, so I'm biased. But Jalen Green, and he is out the rest of summer league, resting a strained muscle. So hopefully that's nothing, because again, like you said,
Another massage.
injuries obviously play into a lot of this, but Jalen Green looks phenomenal. This is a guy that can create his own shot. His shot looks kind of awkward, but it doesn't matter because it goes in. And then Cade Cunningham is like a giant, tall point guard that people have been comparing to Luka Doncic. And Luka Doncic has been overshadowed by the sale of LeBron James cards, but he himself has had some crazy, money generated through card sales. So I think those two guys, and then you have someone who I see like a 10-year vet down the way, like Jalen Suggs. Like there's a lot of talent in this draft. This is also like one of the youngest drafts in history. If you take like the top 6 picks, like they average like 19 years and 3 months old. Yeah, no, we haven't gone. Like there is a developmental league, but it's not. Yeah, there is a developmental league in the NBA, but it's not that far back
Their
yet.
poor mothers.
So, right, but 19 years and 3 months old, the average age for
That's
like
amazing.
the top 5 or 6 picks. So, and then you have players of interest that went to really deep teams like Golden State. So it's going to be fun, but like some people are going to be obsessively checking these box scores every day. So when they're watching NBA Summer League, that's just to see, hey, is this player, can they excel against playing against other grown men? And then once we get to preseason, that's where you really get serious, kind of going, this guy looks like he's actually going to get minutes on the court. I mean, there's not many minutes to go around for some of these teams. So if someone comes in and can, oh my gosh, if a rookie were to average a double-double or something like that, through the roof. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm totally stoked that we got Jalen Green instead of Cade Cunningham. I think Green's going to be the better pick down the road. I just have a gut feeling that it tells me that we made the right decision there. Talking about card pricing and hype and stuff like that. As far as basketball, last summer over a summer league game, there's a guy named Bol, super tall.
Manute Bol's son. Yep.
Yes, Bol had one phenomenal summer league game, against other summer league players. I don't know, he scored 20 points, got like 20 rebounds, and his card shot up from, like a $5 card to a $60, $70, $80 card, his base card rookie overnight. And it held its value for, I would say, probably a good 6 or 8 weeks, maybe 2 months. And then it plummeted, of course. And now it's back down to a, $5, $10 card. But that's just a small example of what you get in the sports card market. It can just turn that quickly from one really good performance, whether it's in preseason or regular season.
Now going from the NBA to one of soccer's biggest stars signs a 2-year deal for around $40 million. $40 million.
Lionel Messi, left Barcelona to go to Paris Saint-Germain, shaking up the soccer world. We're not into soccer a whole lot yet, but this is going to create some ripples down the timeline, I think, just when it comes to the entirety of the European leagues. But real exciting time for Mr. Messi and a lot of upset people in Barcelona and a lot of happy people in Paris. So we'll see what happens.
And here come fan tokens.
Yeah, so this was very interesting, Chaz. Yeah, so this was crazy, right? So we all heard about Dogecoin and cryptocurrency, and everyone's keeping an eye on that market. And there's always like that's a whole different monster, and we're not really going to deal with that on a collector show. But obviously, we're a digital world. We will be discussing NFTs at some point, even though I think they're just glorified JPEGs, but people are buying them for millions. So what do I know? So part of this transfer fee. So this transfer fee ended up being like 38, 39 million a year for Lionel Messi to go to PSG. And part of this payment was fan tokens. Like he actually got cryptocurrency as part of this deal. They're currently valued at about $60 American. And they are this new form of cryptocurrency that some of these teams over there are playing around with that allows holders to influence club decisions. So imagine if you could buy like Astro Coin or something. I'm sure there's a better name than come up with that. But like, let's say you're a Houston Astros fan and you're also into cryptocurrency. I'm going to buy Astro Coin. Okay. Like it blows my mind. So obviously there's money in cryptocurrency. I even 2 years ago outside the HEB here, I've seen an ATM for cryptocurrency. So I know like someone's out there using this stuff, but until I can go to McDonald's and they're like, "Hey, are you paying with crypto?" Sure, I'm probably not going to do it, to be honest. Like until we get to the point of society where Chase Bank is giving me, my paycheck in cryptocurrency or whatever, I'm going to be like, okay, I'll just let someone else figure this out. And of course, there's all these like regulations and laws that have to be passed before cryptocurrency ever becomes realized in most places. But yeah, so part of his contract is cryptocurrency in the form of fan tokens. So technically, he owns part of the team and can make decisions. So I guess if you got enough coins, could you like convince everyone else to like put up coins to trade a player you don't get along with in the locker room? Maybe something like that. That'd be interesting.
Hey man, it's the Jetsons, brother.
Yeah.
The Jetsons. Yeah, it's coming. It's coming for us.
It's coming.
Check this out, man. From cards to yards, fellas. Trevor Lawrence impresses in practice. Jaguars coach Urban Meyer won't make a decision regarding a starter just yet. What the hell is going on?
Well, Trevor had a so-so kind of day in his preseason debut this past weekend and looked a little shaky out of the gate, and then finished a little stronger and looked like he was a little bit more poised. I think this is all media fluff. I don't see any reason why Urban Meyer would ever start Gardner Minshew over Trevor Lawrence. I don't care what they look like in practice. You can rest assured Trevor Lawrence is going to be starting the season unless something unless he's got an injury or something, I would be shocked if Minshew were to start a game.
Oh, right on. I guess you agree with that, Mark. You have a rebuttal?
Well,
Like,
no, it's not a rebuttal. It's Trevor Lawrence was the number one pick. Everyone knew he was going to be the number one pick for like the last 2 years playing for Clemson, um, and it's one of those things where it's like Jacksonville, like the time is now. Like even he's a young quarterback. It's his first year. There's plenty of time. You got to strike while the iron is hot. So with Gardner Minshew, he's a guy who one of those things happened where no one knew about him. He had a couple of good games. His cards skyrocketed. He became a name in the hobby, but a name in the hobby doesn't necessarily translate to wins. And yeah, there's really no reason to let. I don't think Trevor Lawrence can learn anything behind Gardner Minshew. So if it was a case where he was going into Green Bay and they're like, hey, play behind Aaron Rodgers for 2 years, and then by your third year, you'll have the brain of a 7-year veteran, that would be a different story. But no, just let him play. Like, unless they're afraid of him getting injured or he tweaks an ankle or something, I think he's going to play. Now, Urban Meyer's in an interesting situation because he comes from the college world where he dominated. So, can he coach NFL players? Can he coach against other NFL coaches? He is also very adept at media mind games because where he has coached before, he comes from. He's a Power Five coach, so he's dealt with every type of media blitz you can imagine. So it's just going to be an interesting year. But yeah, I would say if Trevor Lawrence isn't starting game one, then there's something going on that is non-football related. Like there's something else going on. So I would say place all bets on him starting.
Absolutely.
right on. Very cool. Very cool. Speaking of, well, not speaking. Well, I guess speaking of football, though, you know, fantasy football is upon us, gentlemen, and
It is.
I think we need to do a draft.
Well, there you go. There's another reason why people love to collect. Fantasy football has brought a lot of people into the hobby as well. I mean, you're so engaged in the game, you can't help but get attached to some of these guys, and it's like a crossover where people go in to start collecting a specific player just because they got into a fantasy league.
I'll tell you what, I play fantasy football for several years now, and that's, I didn't like football growing up so much, but being invested in your team and what's going on, well, I mean, that knowledge kind of comes down upon you, and I could see where the interest of collecting football cards would come from. Kind of the same thing with baseball, being invested in the Astros. Since it's just the Astros and you don't have several different players from several different teams, you're kind of stuck in that one little niche, I guess. But I'm saying this: we should do a draft.
Yeah,
That would be fun.
it would be fun.
It would be cool. It would be cool. But speaking about the Astros, man, pennant races. Dun, 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 dun.
Yep.
Pennant races. Go ahead. Who do you got? Who do you got? Who do you got?
Well, I mean, come on, man. The Astros are the best team in the league. Everybody knows that. That's, no brainer. But yeah, it's just an exciting time for baseball, and getting a full season in. It's been 2 years since we've had a full season. They only had 60 games last year. So of course, having the playoffs on the horizon is going to generate a lot of interest in the sports card industry, and we've got some super exciting products coming out this week. One of the most anticipated releases of the year, 2021 Topps Chrome Baseball, is coming out on Friday, the 20th of August. And we've also got some.
Love Chrome. They love Chrome.
Yes, I mean it's the granddaddy of baseball collecting. It's the majority of the guys out there. That's the rookie cards to go after is the Topps Chrome. And we've got some other exciting stuff coming out. We got Panini Elements Football coming out also on Friday. We've got Panini Spectra Basketball that's going to be absolutely on fire. And Immaculate Baseball's coming out also next Friday. So it's one of our bigger release days in quite some time. It's going to be exciting time.
For sure, for sure. There was a couple of recent releases. I know, dude, when we got what are the gold bar ones? Those came
Yeah.
out. Those were on the day of.
That was the gold standard football 2021. That was super hot. Sold out of it quick. I think we got a few more boxes coming this week, and then Allen and Ginter 2021 came out this past week. Beautiful product that we were talking about earlier.
Sold that all day at the store. So many people. We're probably sold out of that by now.
And Gypsy
Panini National Treasures basketball top Lumineers.
Yeah, Lumineers.
NBA baby.
Lumineers came out.
And in regards to Topps Chrome, like Preston said a while ago on this episode, we love shiny things, right?
Yes.
So like when back in the mid '90s, Topps started making shiny cards, and Finest was probably the first incarnation of that. And then when basketball started to heat up with Kobe Bryant and company in the mid to late '90s, they made Topps Chrome basketball, and it was literally like a shiny chrome version of the same exact picture and card and everything. Yep. And actually, that card has broken a few records in the past year as well. The early incarnation of Chrome, it's hard to keep them from getting oxidized and turning green. Have you ever seen examples of that, Preston, where like those cards turn green over time?
I've got several in my PC with the peeling still attached to the card that have that green hue. And it's kind of accepted throughout the industry that that's just what they look like. As long as there's no surface issues and the corners and everything look good, then generally it's not going to have a huge effect on the overall grade of the card. But it is a bit unsightly, yes.
I think, I mean, we won't know for another 20 years, right? But I think they've corrected that to where the cards now aren't going to do that. And especially if people, that's one thing, people love to get their shiny cards graded. Like there was such an influx of people are wondering if we're going to have just like we had in the late 80s, the junk wax era. People are now worried about a junk slab era because so many NBA Prism cards have been graded the last 2 years. But one good thing is it should protect from that. Being in that impenetrable slab should protect from that. Speaking of Topps Chrome, and we don't have a full checklist released yet, I've noticed that a lot of card companies aren't putting out the checklist till the day before or the day of, and I wonder if some of that has to do with they're trying to sneak in rookie cards of certain players. I know for every league there's certain dates that they have to have made their debut by, but just off the top of your head, who do you think is going to be the most sought after Chrome cards for baseball this year?
Oh man, I think Baum's been really hot. Alec Baum, his cards have been in high demand, and of course Key Brian Hayes, local guy from Tomball.
Oh yeah,
the hype surrounding him is through the roof. I mean, there's a really good crop of rookies this year. I'm excited to see the product. I haven't, like you said, I haven't seen the checklist yet either, so I'm looking forward to seeing that come out. See how many veteran autographs they've got in the set, because they always put a nice little selection of old and new in there with some super rare chase items and things of that nature. But off the top of my head, that's all I'm gonna think of. I don't have a lot of the rookies in front of me, unfortunately.
And
we can go over that again some other time.
And speaking to pennant races, Alec Baum is a good one. The Phillies are currently 61 and 57. One game as of today, one game behind the Braves, who are sitting at 62 and 56.
Yeah.
Now the NL is a little more top heavy as far because you have the Dodgers, the Giants, and the Brewers all over 70 wins already. So it's going to be a little tougher to get that wild card. But if any of these rookies can take their team to the playoff, that's going to get them points.
Absolutely,
on the secondary market.
And then you got San Diego's that's loaded with superstars, and they're chasing all the other guys for a wild card right now. So yeah, it's super exciting races down the stretch, especially in the National League. like you said, there's a little more spread, I think, in the American League, a little more definition as far as the top 5 or 6 that you think are going to get in is a little more solidified than the National League. So exciting times ahead for sure.
And then on the AL, the Yankees, who would always be at the top of collecting because they're the Yankees. I mean, they're
Yes.
sitting third in their division right now, and if they're not careful, they're going to fall to fourth because the Blue Jays are only 2 games behind them. But
Yeah.
the Rays being first in the AL East by 3 games has to be one of the bigger stories of the year, even though we know the Rays have been building and building and building. Like
Yeah.
they're not strangers to success by any means, but it's just in a division where you have 2 teams that just throw cash at whomever and get whoever they want in trades.
Yeah.
That's another thing, Chaz, that when a player gets traded from a bad team to a good team or from a minor market to a major market, that's something else that can happen. So I'm looking at those 2 Cubbies that got traded, Anthony Rizzo to the Yankees especially. I think
Card
that's
values are
something.
going to go up.
Yeah, that's something to, especially if the but these teams have to perform in the pennant race and get to the playoffs and the World Series. But once that happens, yeah, keep an eye on that. Just the trade deadlines are always big. The MLB one passed, and there was just a ton of trades. So that's one thing to look is like where these guys went. Are those teams going to make the playoffs? Like, are they going to help that team and lift them to the pinnacle of the playoffs? So
Yeah.
there's so many factors, so many things can happen.
Still a long
But
ways to go, man. It's amazing that in the stretch of about 2 weeks, the Tampa Bay Rays have basically it's a 10-game difference between what they were about 2.5 weeks ago versus today. They were 5 games behind Boston, and now they're 3 games up. So it's pretty astonishing, both the way that the Rays have catapulted to the top, and the way that Boston's kind of cratered in the past few weeks. So yeah, be exciting to see the last few months of the season here, month and a half or so.
Yeah, maybe we'll go back to the World Series. Need me another World Series ring.
Yeah, I think another World Series is definitely a possibility.
Oh, for sure. Most definitely. Most definitely. Well, cool, man. Anything else that you want to talk about as far as cards? Any of the new stuff? Maybe some stuff that's coming out here in the next month or so that people are just hyped about? Or are we good for this week?
I think we're good.
Yeah, right on. Very cool. Very cool. At the shop, any sports days coming up? We have any events? I know we're going to do a break sometime in September. You have an idea on that, maybe, or?
Nothing immediate, but I am seriously thinking Topps Chrome, because Topps Chrome is going to be red hot. People are dying for a baseball break. We've done several basketball and football, so I'm thinking let's do a Topps Chrome break, man. I'm digging it. I think people will love it.
Yeah. Do you second that motion, Mark? Would you be down for a Topps Chrome break?
oh, I'm all about breaks, and this is going to have to be a future episode. But at some time, I want to discuss with you guys just breaks and how that became such a hobby staple, and most importantly, what type of breaks do you guys like to buy in? Because I see breaks going for individual players, individual
Yeah.
teams, individual divisions, randomized breaks, which I feel a certain type of way about. Because if I'm spending money, I want to know what players I have the potential to get. So
Yeah.
breaks
Like-
should almost be like its own episode, right? But
Oh God, we
I'm
go on and on
I'm all
breaks.
I am all about breaks. I've been actually doing some breaks lately. Allen and Ginter is not what you would call a high value or premium set by any means, but it's one of those the ones you mentioned, Chaz, that came out. It's a 300 card base set,
That's a
and
nightmare break.
where else are you going to get the rookie cards for kale and broccoli? No one else. No other card set this year is going to have the release of a rookie card for the fedora hat.
Yeah, don't forget,
Nothing.
don't forget
And
pomegranate.
Chaz, this one is for you. But every year, Topps goes around and buys up autographs and cuts them out, not from people's bar IDs like you did with Mahomes, but they'll take like a Stan Lee photo, right? That's been verified, certified by Stan Lee. They cut it, which is like but they'll put it in a card and every year they have cut signatures. This is an Allen and Ginter. So the odds of getting these, there's like 10 of them in existence, and there's probably like a million cases or whatever. So the chances of you opening a box and getting one, there's not much of one. But one of the cut signatures they have this year, out of 10 celebrities, is Stan Lee. So there's this, yeah.
Cool.
So that's going to, whenever that finally pops up on the market, that'll be a hot card. But that's the thing with those 1-of-1 cut signature cards. If you don't see it when it's sold, you'll probably never see it again, because that's definitely going into someone's PC. But yeah, go out and get the. I'll have a report each week about how much the rookie card of Kale goes up.
Right on.
I'm not talking about some guy named Kale. I'm talking about the vegetable. And
Well,
Allen and Ginter tobacco cards. So
I've got a nice pomegranate rookie.
there you go.
What is with these? This is like those. You remember? They almost remind me of Mad Magazine, like the old cards, where it just like it would have like a sticker, but it was like bubble yum, but it would make fun of bubble yum and bazooka and
Sure.
canned tuna, but it was like chunk of the sea, and it was like an overweight mermaid on the side. Like this is what this reminds me of. But I can't remember what those cards were called. But,
Actually,
That's
I will say
not making the cut.
I will actually say, so Allen and Ginter always does this because they're trying to throw back to the days of like the actual tobacco cards where you bought tobacco and you got a trading card, and it would be like of a flag of a country. But one that does sound like a Mad Magazine type of card set that they did is called Mascots in Real Life, where it's just like a picture of a Blue Jay and it says Toronto Blue Jay.
Yeah, I got a bear. I got a bear, man. Big old grizzly.
So
ridiculous. That is ridiculous, man.
But I love it. I love that set. If you're looking to do a fun break with family or whatever, I mean it's like $135. You get 24 packs. You get 8 cards. You might get a rip card, which will give you an existential crisis where you have a card, but there's a tiny card inside it, and you have to like rip it open and destroy a rip card.
It's a card within a card within a dream within a card's dream.
Yes, it's like Inception, but with Topps baseball cards.
Yes.
That's pretty dope. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, but yeah, Allen and Ginter, excellent value. Come get your Allen and Ginter boxes.
All right, man. That's it for the very first episode of Cards to Yards. The Adventure Begins sports podcast about sports and sports cards. Hey, man. Big thanks to Preston. Dude, Preston, tell them where they can find you, man.
Hey, guys, come by the shop anytime. I'm available. I'll take a look at your cards. If you need somebody to look at them, if you want to submit them for grading, if you just want advice about the hobby, how to get into it, anything sports card related, I'm the guy. Let me know. I'm happy to help. Look forward to seeing you.
And the geek who doesn't work at The Adventure Begins, man. We got Mark Blair, dude. Tell them where they can find you, man.
I'm on Twitter at Clark Flair, ClarkFlare. And if you have any questions, like Preston said, just general topics you'd like us to discuss on the show, if we throw out terms that you don't know, we can feature it as a glossary word of the week. And in the future, we'll have some cardboard conversations about how do I store my collection, or what's the deal with parallels, or should I even collect? Because we don't want this to be an existential crisis for you. We want this to be fun. So if anything that you can ask us, we can have a discussion about. You guys can contribute on Twitter, on the Facebook page for Adventure Begins Comics and Games. And just let's make this a two-way street and just talk sports and sports cards and make the hobby fun.
That's right, man. And make sure you listen out for Mark's Word of the Week. And he dropped 2 today, so next week he's going to drop another one, man. Don't
He just dropped 2.
Also, make sure you stay tuned each week for this show. And be sure to check out The Adventure Begins at shop.theadventurebeginstx.com for all your nerdy needs. Also, check out The Adventure Begins TV show that drops on Roku every Monday for me and for you through thewoodlandsonline.com. We want to thank you for watching From Cards to Yards, a podcast about sports and sports cards, brought to you by who else? The Adventure Begins, Comics and Games, located on 1488, right next to Old Conroe Road. I'm Chaz. You can find me on Facebook, Chaz Von Graves, or on all the other social media platforms as the RNR, Rock and Roll Nerd, the RNR Nerd. And on behalf of Mark and Preston, see you, nerds.